The harsh realities that no one likes to hear, and the journeys that no one likes to see. Bringing you these journeys with the Insane Minds podcast. Here's your host, Sarvesh Maria.
Welcome. As I mentioned in previous episode as well, this episode was recorded in August 2022. And today I had honor to speak with Grayson Schrader, who's working in Disney World in Florida. And though his plan was to build a network so he could fulfill his dream of becoming a great video shooter, the things didn't pan out well. So before I disclose every single detail, let's jump into the interview with Grayson Schrader. Hey Grayson, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, cool. I guess one thing you should know about me right now is that I'm in the Disney College program in Florida. I will be there until January. I started in January, but before all of that, I'm from South Carolina, from the Clemson area, and I've kind of lived here my whole life, and I graduated from SWU in 2021 as a media production major underneath Dr. Lewis. I'm a Christian, so I've just been involved in church most of my life. That's why I kind of chose SWU. Originally, I went to Anderson University, and then transferred to Southern Wesleyan, and that's where I also changed majors to media. I'm considering actually pursuing my master's, but we can maybe get to that a little bit later. But right now at the college program, I'm not doing exactly what I want to do. I'm in the kitchen as a cast member in Pinocchio's Village House, which is in Magic Kingdom, which is like the main park out of the Walt Disney World Resort. I'm working there. I work in the kitchen, and I did not choose to work there, but that is where they assigned me. And I was kind of hoping to get more connections out of it or something like that, but it just has not really worked out that way. So that's where I'm currently at. But I love media, specifically videography, and I also really like editing, video editing. My grandfather, he was in that field, and kind of inspired me and got me into that as I was growing up and getting older, going through school. I went to public school until 8th grade, and then my family, we moved to another town outside of that county, that school district. So I started being homeschooled once I became a high schooler, and I would do dual enrollment classes through college and things like that. But yeah, throughout all of that, ever since I was, maybe I'd say the youngest, like 7 or 8. Like anywhere from like 3rd to 4th grade, I really got into media, specifically just like picking up a camera and just recording things. So that's why I think videography is my strong suit. And that's what I kind of hope to be doing in the future. I'm a big fan of the film industry. I'm a big nerd, so I like Star Wars a lot. I like the Marvel movies, and I just like movies in general. I'm not the biggest film buff in the world. There's still some quintessential watching that I need to do, but I really appreciate the craft of film and the storytelling. And I would love to work in that field one day, maybe when I'm a little bit older and get a bit more on my resume, doing production work. But that's about me. That's the background of Grayson Schrader.
You know what? That was our last discussion in class. If technology has helped storytelling become more efficient and better. And one guy replies, no, because he believed that he never heard someone saying crap on old Star Wars as compared to the new ones. So, now do you think technology helps storytelling become better?
I guess it's all a little bit up to subjectivity. There's some stuff in the new Star Wars projects that I like better than the original trilogy, but not everything. There's some that I think is definitely not as good. It doesn't hold up nearly as much as those original films. I think one, you're talking about like technology, and is the storytelling getting better? And it's like, I think if a movie is timeless, I think the answer is no. But I think there's always ways we can improve it. But like the charm of certain stories and films is that that's what they used to make them. So back to Star Wars, the original trilogy was honestly very low budget for the 70s and 80s. Another film that I think is really inspirational for the craft is the original Halloween with Michael Myers. John Carpenter did that movie on an incredibly low budget, and it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time. But I think recently an example that I think where the storytelling has improved is with Top Gun Maverick. Did you see? Have you seen any of the Top Gun movies?
You know what? I have not. But because everybody's been talking about it, I guess I gotta watch it now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the best, but it is definitely one of the best. I think it's, again, up to opinion, but so this year, Top Gun Maverick came out, and somehow it's still in theaters. I really think they're just trying to get as much money as they can from it, but it's still in theaters, and I saw the original Top Gun right before I saw Top Gun Maverick. Original Top Gun came out in the 80s, I believe it was 1984, and it was like a huge hit. People loved it. And then Top Gun Maverick was announced, and I was kind of like, probably not going to be that great of a sequel, because a lot of sequels like that usually don't do well. But I think Top Gun Maverick really utilizes modern technology and just makes it. I think it surpasses the original film. Of course, I don't really have as much nostalgia for the original Top Gun, but that's one of those cases where I'm like, the technology and the modern filmmaking techniques really help elevate the story while still also feeling true to that franchise. And I just think there's some really cool technological aspects. One of the biggest mediums of storytelling. I've in a lot of media classes. If Lewis is listening to this, he'll appreciate the term that the medium is the message.
Yeah.
And that's a very popular phrase we like to throw around in MediaCom. But one medium that I love is video games for storytelling. And I think video games has become one of, if not the best form, but not the best. I think I'll take it back. But one of the best and most creative ways to tell a story, because a lot of games, when video games first started out, they were just they're fun time killers, right? But now the stories that are ingrained in video games are very cinematic, and they elevate the experience of the story because you are part of the story. You are controlling this character, and some games, and a lot of games, your actions directly influence the story. There's a lot of other games where it's like, no, you're kind of, they call it linear, and that's cool too. One of my favorite video games of all time is is Uncharted 4, the Uncharted series in general, and those are very linear games, but I think the story is incredible, and it makes it even better because I'm playing through it. But sorry, that kind of deviates from what you were talking about. But I am a sucker for modern filmmaking techniques, but also being able to look back on what they did and what we can learn, or how to improve it, or what we can still keep the same.
So, was that the reason you ended up having the combination of storytelling and video games as your past project, in which you guys entered the virtual world and you ended up killing him unintentionally?
That was definitely a big inspiration. I think, shout out to a couple of my buddies, but we all worked together on it. It was myself, Josh Johnson, a good friend of mine. He graduated a year before me. Seth Williams, like you mentioned, and then my good buddy Ben Wyatt. We all decided to kind of collaborate on that video. Ben and I left the writing side and the story side of it, but Josh and Seth are just, I'm not even going to lie, they're just better filmmakers than we are. But I learned a lot from them doing that. But that was one of the most fun shoots and just projects I've ever worked on. That's my claim to fame, as I like to say. Not really, but in terms of the MediaCom world, that's one that really stands out that we did. And yeah, like the whole message, I mean, people have gathered other messages from that, but like, yeah, like I don't know if, like I think that my fandom of video games and the stories that are told in it is definitely what influenced that. Another big thing though was like, there was a big debate, and I don't know if it still goes around as much anymore, but definitely when I was growing up, like how much that apparently video games influence people into doing things in real life. And one thing I got so sick of when I was a kid was when people would say, "Oh, you play, those Call of Duty games, you're gonna start shooting at people in real life," or like, "Oh, those people that go out and do mass shootings, they played video games," and like, in my opinion, correlation is not causation. And so, like, yeah, maybe they can play video games and maybe they did do that, but I don't think that's the reason. Like, if people are going to kill other people, they're going to do it, and maybe video games fuel that factor. But for me, like, I know how to distinct or make a difference from reality to what is not reality. And the point of that video was like, my character's reaction. He kills Seth's character, and but like at the very end, like he immediately is like, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?" Like this is like I thought it was just a video game. Like and he ends up killing him. And so like it makes it very clear like that guy is aware that like he thought he was in the video game when he killed him, but when he came to the real world, he was like, "Oh no, like that's not what I meant at all." So we were trying to, and we didn't, give him much plot reason as to why he ended up in the video game. That is all up into the user's imagination. And if people want to grab other messages from it, they can. But the message that we were trying to tell was that like video games are not real life, And so the immediate regret that my character feels is like, hey, he would not have done that in real life. Had he known it was real life, he would not have killed him. But because he thought he was still in the game, or he just thought it was just like some like weird twist, like he thought he was doing something harmless and he ended up killing his best friend. So, yeah, I like video games.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that your goal was to build network and relationships while working in Disney. But you also mentioned that you kind of failed in achieving those goals. Why is that so?
So, unfortunately, I got thrown into a place where we're very short-staffed, and it's the quick service industry at Magic Kingdom or in Disney in general is just not the greatest place to be. Magic Kingdom is the busiest theme park in the entire world. I mean, there's like tens of thousands of people every day, and we are the only place in Magic Kingdom that sells pizzas. And I hear really good experiences from other people in the college program about how they were able to make connections and get professional Disney internships or whatever it may be with their leaders. So we have the way the hierarchy works is we have leaders and then we have coordinators and then we have us on staff. And so the coordinators just kind of help the daily operation, but the leaders are like, the really big stuff, right? And the only semblance of, someone asking about what my major was she's my favorite leader. Her name is Kim, and she was like, "What did you go to school for?" And I was like, "Media production." She was like, "Oh, huh." And I think she thinks I'm a pretty hard worker. I like to be a hard worker. If I'm not working hard, I feel bad. I feel like I'm not carrying my weight. And so she's complimented me a lot on that. But she was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." And then I get to hear anything back from that. That was only a few weeks ago when she made some interest in what I actually want to do. But like, Disney makes some of the greatest films in the world. Like, I mean, the Pixar movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. Star Wars is just a personal favorite franchise of mine. The Marvel movies are like just a power monger in cinema. And now with Disney Plus, the TV shows for all of that. So that was why I wanted to do the college program, because I was kind of, after college, a little aimless, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And while the college program hasn't totally panned out the way I've wanted it to, it's still been a very beneficial lesson to me to help me realize like what I want to do. And it has helped me realize that I don't want to work for Disney, because I don't like, I'm not trying to slander Disney's name here or whatever, but I don't really like working for a big corporation. I don't feel like I'm very appreciated. Like, I don't feel like my talents are used to their best ability. So I definitely think I'd rather work for a local company. Not to jump the gun, but currently my plans after I get back from Disney, I'm going to move back here with my family. My dad started a handyman business, and he's just been kind of doing that by himself. And there's some jobs that he needs help with, and I like physical labor. That's actually one of the reasons why I like videography so much. Is being able, like, I'm not stuck at a desk, right? And so I get to like go out to a place and find cool shots and record things and take pictures. Like, that's fun to me. But then of course sometimes I want a break and I want to be able to just stay inside and edit a video. That's always very satisfying to me. But anyway, I think I'm going to help my dad with the sort of marketing elements of it, the social media, things like that. Maybe take pictures when we're on the job, or take some videos to kind of help promote and be like, oh, hey, like, here's what we're doing today. Like, if you, something like this or anything that you need help with, like, call us at this number or shoot us a message at this page, and we'll be happy to get back to you and talk details, because and then that feels like it's going to combine two of my favorite elements, and also being able to work with my dad. But there's a whole lot of opportunities. I think the job market is finally starting to kind of open back up a little bit. I graduated, still when COVID was happening, and thankfully I was able to walk on the stage and get my diploma and everything. But yeah, back to your initial question. I wish it was easier for me to make connections there. Some people in different locations, at different parks, their leaders are a lot closer with them because they're not as busy and there's not as much stress on them. But unfortunately, I'm in a location where it's a very high stress environment, and we also have a lot of people, and unfortunately, like, not to say that they're not trying to make an effort, but I just don't think they have the time. And it's sad, but it's the truth. But it's all right.
Everybody talks about working hard, dedication, grinding, but no one really talks about taking time off or taking a few breaks. What you think? Taking time off is important?
Yeah, it sometimes can be hard for me to go into a restful mindset, because I'm either like 100% or 0%. It's like, if I'm gonna rest, like, I'm gonna rest really hard. Then I feel bad about it because, like, when I'm working hard, like, I don't want to take a break because I don't want people to think I'm slacking off. Even on a day-to-day basis, when I'm in the kitchen, like, I get put on a position, like, and I've been on there for hours, and I need some water. I don't want to, like, ask someone to cover me real quick because I feel like, I don't know, maybe it shows some sign of weakness or something, or that I'm trying to be a slacker or whatever, which is not the case. I'm just, we're all human. Like, sometimes we need a break. We need water. Like, water's important. So I think some people just, like, get onto one another about, like, breaks that they take and stuff like that. But yeah, like, Americans definitely, we slack on rest, and sometimes we kind of have to. It's just the way sometimes the economy works. Like, it all depends on where we live at. Like, it can be a little rough. I, however, am looking forward to being back home, because I think it will give me more time to rest, because the summer was a very, very busy time for the theme parks, and I just was working, constantly. And Florida is also very hot and very humid. So, the only time I can genuinely relax is when I'm in my room in the air conditioning, sleeping or playing games, or a way that I also kind of relax is working out. Unfortunately, I got an injury at work. I pulled some muscles in my back because I was carrying something heavy and just did not do great form with me trying to lower it down, and I pulled some muscles in my back, and so that kind of that cut into me being able to work out, because I had to let that heal, and it's still healing. It's still a little tight at times, and so I can't do leg days much or anything. But was also a good wake up call to be like, okay, I need to slow down. I need to rest, because and just hope that people will understand that,
Here's the thing. Recently, I noticed that people or students in general are coming to class with a mindset where they believe the professors are going to spoon feed them, and on not receiving what they expected, they start to complain. Do you think it happens pretty often?
So I remember people who would like come into the media major thinking that was going to happen, especially at Southern Wesleyan. People were like, oh, come in there and they just think they're going to learn everything. And very early on, someone taught me a very valuable piece of advice. And they said that you only get out of the program what you put into it, meaning that you have to put in the work to gain the knowledge, so that it becomes a beneficial thing. Because you can go by and try to do the bare minimum, and you'll pass, but you're not going to learn really much. And a lot of stuff with media is really self-taught. So that major, specifically, you're given the tools and the projects and the assignments to utilize these skills, but it's up to you to try to learn them, and of course your early stuff is just going to be garbage, your early videos, or your it's just how it goes. When you come in and you don't know anything, you're not going to be prepared, and it's going to be rough. But slowly, one by one project at a time, one video at a time, whatever it may be, you're going to get better and better, and you're going to learn something new each time until, I remember there was a class that we did, and we had to do these analyses, yeah. And we had to do 10 videos across the semester. It was one a week on specific, subjects or genres or lenses. And we had certain ones that we had to do, but then the rest of them were we could kind of do whatever we wanted. And I remember that last video that I did by the end of the semester, I had it all scripted out and everything. I had gotten all the footage. I did that video in an hour. That's how quickly I did it. I recorded the voiceover and everything. I had class that day at a certain time, and I had a big break, so I went to my class. I came home. I did the video in an hour, and I went to class. Versus my first video took me a week. It took me a week to figure out how to do all of that stuff. So, I'm very thankful and very thankful and happy that I was able to work through those skills and do that. But yeah, my best piece of advice is, if you want to learn that stuff, you want to get out, get everything you want out of it, you gotta put the work in. You gotta put the work in.
I won't call myself pretty experienced in this field, but I will say that according to my experience, getting people ready to shoot is the most difficult task. They don't want to be your actors or something. You know, this is the question for newbies as well, who come with expectations or fantasies of becoming great directors, video shooters. How do you deal with getting people ready to be your actors?
So that kind of dives into more of the filmmaking side of things, or making short films. It was helpful when I was in school because we kind of all helped each other out. My best friends that helped me out. I had people that I mentioned earlier. I had Josh Johnson, Seth Williams, Ben Wyatt. I had another girl, his name's Caroline Jelly. I had Maddie Barrett. I had James Wager. I had a ton of people that I worked with. Lydia Perry is another one. And if anybody's listening that's still there, if I failed to mention your name, you can yell at me right now. But yeah, that was helpful because we all had each other, right? We helped each other. People would ask me, "Hey, can you be an actor in my film?" Or, "Hey, help me write this." We work together in groups. Since I've graduated, I have not helped create, or I haven't worked on creating a short film. The only exception to that is that earlier I mentioned Caroline Jelly. She is dating someone who I'm close friends with, and his name is Britton Jackson, and he went to film school, so he's very knowledgeable. And he reached out to me. This was last year, around I want to say early August, late July, somewhere around those lines. And I drove out to Knoxville, and I helped him do a horror short film. He sent me the script. I revised the script a little bit, and then we helped do our shoot schedule. And then he was the director, and I was kind of his producer, his production assistant. So I helped make sure the time was flowing, or what the actors needed to be wearing, or what items we needed, because he was managing so much stuff. There was so much stress on him, and I was also helping pay attention to the details of stuff like that. And so I like to think, and hopefully, I took a lot of burdens off of his shoulders. Unfortunately, that film is still not out yet. We had somebody trying to edit it, but there was a lot of things that went wrong on that shoot. But I think it's still planning to come out. They need some voiceover from me specifically. I have not had my microphone on hand, so I'm hoping that whenever I get access to that, I can do that. But yeah, I mean, that was literally just a favor that he asked me. I was his friend, and I wanted something on my resume, hopefully down the road. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Plus, it gave me an opportunity to work on a project and see my friends. He gave me a place to stay at his family's condo, so it was I didn't have to pay any of that. And he also, his mom took care of the food for us. So it was a great time, and I had a wonderful time. I played the main villain in that. I don't know why. You'll find there's a couple other films that we did when I was graduating. It was in 2020. We did some short films for the whole for COVID stuff. So people to kind of enforce wearing masks and social distancing, and so we helped work on some of those films. I believe I was in every single one of those except maybe one of them. I helped kind of write them or pitch the ideas as well, and I worked together with a whole bunch of people that really helped out. We had another guy named Brian. I'm not sure. I think he's on staff at SWU now, but he helped out. So yeah, it's hard to say because I am not the number one creator. It's not like I'm constantly creating things, but it's just fun to collaborate with people. And that's just where those connections come into play. And we're young and we're aspiring, and we want to work our way up the ranks. And so we really just have to help each other out, whether that's the writing or the videography or the acting or the directing or the producing, the editing, whatever it may be. We just help each other out and hope for the best. And it allows us to, continue to work. I mean, the greatest filmmakers just, have a dream and some friends, and they do it, and then slowly they get better and better and better until they have a huge budget where they can make whatever they want. So hopefully one day that'd be kind of cool if I was part of that. But right now, I guess we'll kind of wait and see.
So what you think separates the really good filmmakers from the ones who just don't make it?
First one is simply put dedication, and then secondly, staying true to their vision. I think my favorite filmmakers really just have a vision that they want to execute, and they go out of their way to make sure it's the way they want it. My favorite director is a man named Denis Villeneuve. He recently directed the new Dune movie that came out last year. And then before that, he did the first Sicario movie. He did Arrival. He did Blade Runner 2049, a whole bunch of stuff. But he has a very clear vision on the movies he creates. Similarly, I really like Christopher Nolan. I think his movies are just aesthetically so beautiful and have some of the best scores. And, he helps direct and write, and just his vision is just so kind of out there, but it works so well that he just stays true to it, and he's very dedicated. I think a lot of people are afraid to be dedicated and kind of put their foot down about that. I don't say I entirely blame them because it's a very tough industry out there, and sometimes it requires a lot of butt kissing, unfortunately.
So, what is the most important thing for you in filmmaking?
For me, I think it all comes down. There's a whole lot of elements that go into filmmaking, but for me, when it comes to good stories, what really compels me are the characters. I'm all about character-driven stories. When I can relate to a character, or at least sympathize with a character, understand where they're coming from, that's when I'm going to like the stories the most. My favorite character of all time is Spider-Man. If people know me, they know I like Spider-Man. And that's just because I related to him a lot growing up. He's a nerdy white kid that he likes science, he likes cameras, and unfortunately, he's bit by a spider, and his actions cause his uncle to get killed. And from that day forward, he swears to do the right thing and use his powers for good. I love that. Like, that's one of my favorite characters of all time. Recently, I'm playing through a game called The Last of Us, and I love the characters in that game. Joel and Ellie are the two main characters, and they're very different characters. Joel is a kind of a grizzled, grumpy old man. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot of terrible things. And then Ellie is this kind of girl that he's taken under his wing because he's trying to get her across the country. She is, very young and naive, and she's only like 13 or 14, and still has a lot of innocence about her. But they're in this kind of post-apocalyptic world, and they help each other through this time. So those are just a couple examples of like characters that really help stories move forward for me. Of course, there's some movies that just, all the characters are like, they're decent, but the plot is like what I really love, like the story. But typically, it's the characters that really push it forward for me. What they experience, what they go through, what their morals are, what their motivations are, things like that.
Earlier, you mentioned that people are scared of being dedicated. But is it that they're scared of being dedicated or they're just scared of failing at it?
It can be a mixture of both. I'd say the film industry is not a safe industry to be in. There's a lot of demand for it, and so that some people they're afraid that, and I speak for myself on this as well, that like afraid of not being good enough, or not they're not qualified enough, I suppose, which causes them to be like, oh well, getting hired or whatever, like it's a big risk, and sometimes people don't want to take those risks. And of course, it's always good to kind of have a cushion, a safety net. Like if that's not going to work out, have something else, have a backup. But it takes a lot of time, and sometimes, and a lot of, like I said, dedication. And some people just they get so stressed or so behind on it that they're, or down on themselves really, that like they lose that dedication and that focus, and they decide, actually, I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm not sure if that makes sense at all, but that's kind of what I mean by like dedication.
We live in a society where everything is changing at a very faster rate. Now, do you believe you enjoy change in your life or you just have to change because it's important?
Yeah, I think change can be hard for me a lot of times because I'm a nostalgic person, so I really think of back on my life as like periods or phases or seasons. And so right now I'm in a season where like it's starting to wrap up, but the season of when I've been in Disney, like it's been a whole year-long thing. I was originally supposed to leave in August, but now I'm staying till January. I do appreciate change. It can be hard sometimes. I don't want to. Sometimes it's hard to let go of those things, but I've gotten a lot more accepting of that, and I can appreciate that. Like, even though I think change can be scary, it can be a good thing. It allows us to grow, to turn into hopefully better people. I strive to be a better person each and every day, and sometimes I fall short of that, but. So, the change of moving from here to Florida for the Disney College program, that was a big change, but I was excited for it. And then now soon the change of going back home, that's going to be a whole other thing because I've made friends in Florida and I've been used to being able to go to Universal or Disney whenever I want. And that won't be there anymore. But yeah, change is important. And And even though it's scary, I think it's important to kind of embrace it and, hope and pray for the best, no matter what happens.
You know what? We both are in media industry, and we both know that there's so much information and knowledge that you can get from social media and YouTube in general, and there are other sites like Udemy. So do you still believe that college is still a need to get your skills better in any specific field you're going in?
Um, Need is a strong word, and I would say no if they already know a lot or feel like they can teach themselves a lot through by themselves. And a lot of people do that, but a lot of people don't. And of course, it's going to look a lot better on a resume to go to college. Fortunately for me, I think going to college was the wise move because with my scholarships and everything, I really didn't have to pay a lot for college. I did not go into debt at all. And I said earlier that I'm thinking about getting my master's in more media, things like that. I'd like to hone those skills, and I think having a master's even looks better on a resume, especially if you're looking for those types of jobs. But do I think someone needs to go to school or go to college? No, I just think it may be if you don't already know a lot about it or aren't willing to get invested in that, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you.
Do you think specialization in one thing is important, given that there's so much you can do with media?
Right, yeah. I think it's important. I think I'm going to try and specialize in just videography and maybe editing, kind of go back and forth. I think because I really like those two things specifically, so I think that's what I want to try to go for.
You know, we have been talking about media whole day long. Why don't we go ahead and talk about Marvel and DC now? Given the fact that Black Adam is going to release soon. What you think about that?
Yeah. So, one fun thing about me, as I'm talking to you right now, I have a massive collection of comic books to my right. So, I definitely when I say I like Marvel and DC and Star Wars, I like it maybe a little too much. So, Black Adam, it has the potential to be good. However, DC has really been fumbling the bag lately because DC is owned by Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers does not know what they are doing. It's been kind of a mess over there, and Warner Brothers actually just got acquired very recently, maybe 3 months ago at the most, by I believe that it's AT&T Discovery. So now they have merged into one company, and it is called Warner Brothers Discovery. That is what it's called. And don't get me wrong, there is some stuff in DC that I think is just perfection. The Batman that came out back in March,
Yep.
I think is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. I adore that movie. But then there's other movies like Wonder Woman 1984, or not The Suicide Squad, but Suicide Squad. It came out in 2016. That's when it came out. Things like that where I'm like, oof, those are really bad. Yeah. Also, the character of Black Adam is so. The Rock has been attached to this character in this role for years. I mean, they've been trying to make a Black Adam movie since 2007, and it's finally coming out in 2022. Black Adam in the comics is just a bad guy. He is just an evil, evil dude. He's the antithesis of Shazam, and he's pretty messed up guy. But in this movie, there's been this whole trend lately to turn villains into anti-heroes. So they're not villains. They're they're just really dark and edgy good guys. And that's what The Rock is trying to do with Black Adam. But I'm sorry, Black Adam is a bad guy. He always has been a bad guy. And also Black Adam is Egyptian. The Rock is half black, half Samoan, not Egyptian. He looks like Black Adam a little bit, Black Adam in the comics has hair, but anyway. But I think the movie has potential to be good. He seems menacing in the role. He's definitely has the physique for the role. I mean, Black Adam is a big dude. But when it comes to the whole debate of Marvel or DC, I think both of them right now are in very questionable places. I think, last year, I think I think Marvel was really on a roll, especially when they ended last year with No Way Home. But this year, they've released a lot of content and movies that I think have just been very middle of the road. Was not super impressed by Doctor Strange 2. I thought it had some cool elements to it, but the writing I was not a fan of. Thor: Love and Thunder. It's a fine movie, but I think it was way too comedic for that character. And then there's I can't even think, maybe 4 TV shows on Marvel that have come out this year. I think they started off with Moon Knight, and then they did Miss Marvel, and now they're doing She-Hulk, and then there's one more at the end of this year that I think that's coming out. So maybe 3 or 4, whatever. Marvel has a large oversaturation of content, and I wish they would kind of dial it back to maybe 25%, so they can really focus on making individual projects really good. And then DC just doesn't have any cohesive nature to their movies. But when they come out with good stuff, it is great. And The Batman is a prime example of that. But there's other movies that are coming out that they're doing the new Flash movie that comes out next year. There's a whole bunch of controversy with Ezra Miller, the main actor who plays the Flash, and it makes me very worried for that movie. But I think DC just hasn't had a whole lot of big wins, and I think Marvel has tends to have bigger wins. I mean, they had No Way Home, they had Avengers Endgame. Even back from day one, I think Iron Man is a fantastic movie. The first Captain America, The Winter Soldier, the first Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. I mean, they come out with a lot of just bangers. So it's up to opinion. I love both Marvel and DC. Spider-Man is my number one guy, but I'm also a big Superman and Batman guy. So I'm going to go see Black Adam for sure. I want to. It intrigues me enough that I want to go see it, especially because there's some other characters in the movie that really intrigue me. Dr. Fate is one that's in there. He's kind of DC's equivalent of Doctor Strange. There is Atom Smasher. He looks pretty cool. Hawkman is in the movie as well, and I like Hawkman a lot. So, yeah, we'll see how it is. I don't expect it to be anything that's going to just be world-breaking box office, but I think it could be entertaining. We'll see.
All right, Grayson, share with us one resource or one tool that you can't live without.
Honestly, this may be a boring answer, but right now, especially in our current generation, it's smartphones. I mean, smartphones do everything. You can make movies on them. You can edit movies onto them. It's how we contact one another. Our email is on there. Social media. I mean, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are just huge platforms to help make connections and reach out to people. So as plain and simple as it is, smartphones are the biggest crux to the production industry right now, and just media in general. I mean, the amount of media that is on my phone right now. I can go on YouTube. I can play games. I can literally stream my PS5 to my phone. I can go on make spreadsheets on my phone. I can call people. I can FaceTime people. I can go on Instagram and get traction on there. I mean, I can take videos and photos. It's just, there's so much that this little square box can do. That, I mean, if people didn't have that anymore, I mean, it certainly would be doable, but I think at this point we're so spoiled with it that it would, if all smartphones in the world just suddenly up and disappeared, there'd be some mass pandemonium.
I agree with you over there. But thank you so much for coming on the show. But before you leave, I will request you to give your contact information where people can contact you and sign up deals with you so you can do film shooting for them and probably editing as well.
You can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at Schradester8. I'll spell it out because people get confused by it, but it's SCHRADESTER8. That's my Twitter and my Instagram. And yeah, that's the main places you can reach out to me. And then my email is the exact same thing, but Schradester8@gmail.com. If if you want to shoot me an email there, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Sweet, we'll mention all that in show notes. But thank you so much for coming on the show, and we'll love to have you back in the future and talk some more fun things about filmmaking, video shooting, and editing. It's always fun to me. It's a show.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please remember to like and subscribe to the Insane Minds podcast.